In this video, we are going to find the exact value of sine alpha minus beta given this information in the first line. And so the first thing we are going to do is apply the sine A minus B formula since we have sine of alpha minus beta. So according to that formula, sine of alpha minus beta is equal to sine of alpha multiplied with cosine of beta. So alpha is like our capital A and beta is like our capital B. And then we are subtracting cosine of alpha, which is multiplied with sine of beta. We were given sine of alpha. We were given that sine of alpha is equal to 5 over 13. But we do not have cosine of beta, nor do we have cosine of alpha, nor do we have sine of beta. But if we have sine alpha and we know what quadrant alpha is in, we can use that information to find cosine of alpha. Similarly, if we have tangent of beta and we know what quadrant beta is in, we can use that information to find cosine of beta and sine of beta. So we have two separate XYR problems going on. And for both of them, we need to make a note of the quadrant. We have an XYR problem going on for alpha. We were given that sine of alpha is equal to 5 over 13. And if alpha is between negative 3 pi over 2 and negative pi, we need to use that information to determine what quadrant alpha is in. So negative 3 pi over 2, we will count backwards to figure out where that is located. Here is negative pi over 2. This is negative pi, and this is negative 3 pi over 2. So between negative 3 pi over 2 and negative pi, we are in quadrant 2. We will now do XYR. Sine is equal to y over r, and so we will use this and the fact that x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared to find what x is equal to. So x squared plus 5 squared is equal to 13 squared. So that tells us that x squared plus 25 is equal to 169. We will subtract 25 from both sides to see that x squared is equal to 144. And then take the square root of both sides to see that x is equal to a negative 12. And it's a negative 12 because we are in quadrant 2. That's why it's important to make a note of our quadrant. It would be incorrect if we said that x was equal to 12. So now that we know what x is, we can find cosine alpha. Because cosine is equal to x over r, x is negative 12 and r is 13. So cosine of alpha is equal to negative 12 over 13. So we will plug in cosine alpha into our formula right here. So we just found that cosine of alpha is equal to a negative 12 over 13. Let me go ahead and bring this minus down from the formula. Now we will do an XYR problem on beta to find cosine beta and sine beta. We were given that tangent of beta is equal to the negative square root of 3. Beta is in between pi over 2 and pi. Pi over 2 is at the top of the y-axis. Pi is at the negative x-axis, and so this is also located in quadrant 2. Tangent is equal to y over x. I will put a 1 in the denominator there. We need to be careful when we choose our signs. If we're in quadrant 2, y must be a positive square root 3 since y is positive in quadrant 2, and x is a negative 1. So we have to give some thought as to which coordinate we decide to assign the negative to depending on the quadrant that we're in. With this information of x and y, we need to find r. We know that x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And so we have negative 1 squared plus the square root of 3 squared is equal to r squared. Negative 1 squared is a positive 1. Root 3 squared is 3. 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. And so r is equal to a positive 2. R is always positive, so we don't have to worry about whether r is the positive square root of 4 or the negative square root of 4. So now that we know x, y, and r, we can say that cosine of beta, which is x over r, is equal to a -1 divided by 2. And sine of beta, which is equal to y over r, is equal to the square root of 3 divided by 2. And so now we can plug in for cosine beta equal to -1/2 and sine beta equal to the square root of 3 divided by 2. We're going to multiply these fractions straight across the top and straight across the bottom. 5 times -1 is -5. 13 times 2 is 26. This will turn into addition since we are subtracting a negative. 12 times √3 is 12 √3. And 13 times 2 is 26. And so we are left with -5 plus 12 √3 divided by 26 as our final answer.